Monster Hunter 6 won't be like Rise, and there are a few reasons for this, but perhaps more importantly, Monster Hunter 6 may continue a trend that's been subtly reinventing the entire series. One of the most likely changes in Monster Hunter 6 will be food. In Rise, the only options you had for food were various colored dongos as opposed to the comically large plates of the past. This was a bit of a disappointment to a lot of players, myself included, because it matched the variety of food I had in real life. However, with the help of today's sponsor Factor, that's no longer the case. Have you ever found yourself thinking, man, I'd love to cook, but I'm busy with the more important productive things in life like exercising for my health, working on growing my personal business for the future, and playing Baldur's Gate? Well, if you have, then Factor would be perfect for you. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are delivered straight to your doorstep, cutting out the need to cook. All you have to do is open the box, throw the meal in the microwave, please don't actually throw it, wait 2 minutes, and you've got a meal cooked by a gourmet chef ready to go. The meals are all dietitian approved as well, so Factor is a great place to start if you're looking to improve your diet. I personally have awful time management, so I never get around to actually cooking anything, but Factor has seriously helped me with that since now I don't have to go outside, buy ingredients, and spend hours prepping and cooking them. You can choose from over 34 different options on their website, meaning there's something for just about everyone. So head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code MHSPOOSER50 to get 50% off your first box. That's factor75.com or the link below and use code MHSPOOSER50 to get 50% off your first box. So let's start with the first and most obvious reason Monster Hunter 6 won't be like Rise. Monster Hunter is a series of cycles. If you look at Monster Hunter releases, you'll quickly notice that each game falls into one of two categories. Monster Hunter World, for example, is a more grounded, slow-paced, and methodical experience. This isn't to say those aspects don't exist in the other category, just that they're more in focus here. Now, if you look at the other category, the difference will be immediately clear. You can probably tell just by looking at the footage alone, but games like Rise are far more over-the-top, experimental, and just generally faster paced than games like World. This has been happening for well over a decade now, and it's honestly a great thing. The wonderful part of this cycle is that each time a new Rise-like game releases, they take aspects of the World-like games to improve, and the World-like games do the same. This creates a system where both teams are able to create the best possible game by implementing what worked in the other team's previous game. Equally, however, this two-team system allows for significantly faster releases. By being able to work on both games, they can plan the releases and work schedules to ensure that the community has new games to play at an astonishingly fast rate. In fact, for an idea of just how fast these games come out, here's when the final update for Monster Hunter World Iceborne released, and here's when Monster Hunter Rise came out. March of the very next year. Also, as an aside, if you look at these numbers, it stands to reason that the next game could be coming sooner than we thought. This is all to say that having a cycle like this with two teams is extremely beneficial not just to the games, but to the players as well. And of course, it means the next game in this cycle won't be like Rise. It'll be closer to World again. However, that's not the only reason the next game won't be like Rise. There's another reason that's sort of out of Capcom's control. Let me explain. The Nintendo Switch is widely known to be one of the most powerful consoles on the market right now. Its state-of-the-art processing power along with yeah, you get the joke. Let's just say the Switch doesn't exactly consider power a big priority, and that's fine for the most part. Nintendo has always been about creativity over power, and while it usually works for them, it does inevitably affect the games that end up on their hardware. Rise had to deal with a much weaker console than World did. This is important because World was often praised for the level of immersion and scale that it was able to bring to the series. You had these sprawling maps that could take minutes to traverse, more immersive animations from both the hunters and the monsters, and just overall higher graphical fidelity. These all work together to create a much more immersive experience that was all about this part of the title. It really felt like you were a monster hunter. You had to go out and find these monsters, track them down, and chase them through these dynamic environments. And while there were parts of this experience that I personally wasn't particularly fond of, it really resonated with a lot of people, and it's a large part of why the series was able to grow as much as it did with World. Rise had to tone all of this down because, again, weaker console. But now, more likely than not, we're going to go back to the PlayStation, and this time it's stronger than ever. With Sony finally starting to push more exclusive content, there's a very good chance that the next game will be an exclusive as well, meaning it'll likely be the most immersive Monster Hunter yet. I mean, just imagine everything we got with World, everything that made it special, but developed for even more powerful hardware. Not only this, but we'll have the lessons that the teams learned from both World and Rise to make an experience unlike any other. Needless to say, despite the fact that it won't won't be like Rise, this may well end up being the best Monster Hunter game we've ever seen. But that all leads into a trend that'll change the series forever. And while only the future knows if this trend is a good thing, here's my take on it. So what exactly is this trend that I'm talking about? Well, let me explain by proposing a question. Is Monster Hunter World a portable game? That is to say, is it one of these and not one of these? Naturally, most people will say, no, of course it's not. It's made by the mainline team, not the portable team. This is a well-known fact. And they'd be right. But imagine for a second you could perform logic-defying magic. Let's say you removed the seamless areas from World and reintroduced loading screens, you shrunk down the overall scale, and you turned the graphics down a fair bit to match Monster Hunter games of 2010. You then took this theoretical game back to 2010 and asked Monster Hunter fans to determine whether it was a portable game or a mainline game. I'm willing to bet they'd say it was portable. They would likely say the same things about this game that people often said about Rise. They'd talk about how over the top it is, the fast-paced gameplay, and how it's not similar enough to the grounded style of the mainline games to not be a part of the portable line. Yet despite all of that, World would be, and still is undeniably, a mainline game. The point of this whole thought experiment is to explain that the line separating these two teams is far less defined than it may at first seem. Each game builds off the previous game in the series. In the same way that Generations used the best parts of 4U, and World uses the best parts of Generations, the next game will use the best parts of Rise. What we may have considered over the top in the past is considered normal now. This trend is the fact that by learning from their predecessors, each game is able to create something new, something different, yet something even more incredible than the last. Monster Hunter is a series of cycles, and it's exactly because of these cycles, because the developers are unwilling to stagnate and stick with just one thing, that Monster Hunter as a series will continue to create these awe-inspiring, one-of-a-kind experiences, no matter how different they may be.